Why Christmas baking with your kids keeps going wrong and how to fix it. So picture this. You're baking Christmas cookies with your toddler. You've got the festive music playing. You're imagining this beautiful moment of connection and tradition making. And then your child pours the entire jar of cinnamon all over the floor. And you're shrieking at the cinnamon as it's pouring, but then you see their shocked little face crumple into tears. And suddenly you're standing there with a crying child, a cinnamon-covered floor, this overwhelming feeling of guilt and thinking, why can't we just have one nice moment? If that sounds familiar, this video is for you, because what I'm about to share will completely change how you approach Christmas activities with your kids, and honestly might change how you approach parenting in general. I'm Emma. I've worked therapeutically with mums for over 10 years. Let's talk about what's really going on here. So here's what typically happens during Christmas baking, or really any special activity you plan with your kids. You start with this beautiful vision. Maybe it's inspired by your own childhood memories or something you saw on Instagram, or just this deep desire to create magic for your children. But then reality hits. Your 5-year-old gets bored halfway through and starts jumping on the sofa with floury hands while you have to finish the cookies on your own, covered in sweat. Or your 4-year-old gets too excited and too close to the oven, so you have to stop everything for safety, but now you feel resentful that you didn't get the Christmas experience you wanted. Or your kids start fighting over who gets to stir the dough, and even when you give them separate bowls, the youngest keeps grabbing the wooden spoon from the other. Or you want your 7-year-old to decorate the cooled biscuits nicely, but there's just coloured icing everywhere and they're messing about instead of creating those beautiful cookies you'd imagined. And here's the worst part. You end up feeling guilty for being annoyed at your child, which makes the whole experience feel even more ruined. Does that sound familiar? So what's really going on here? What's the actual problem? Well, the problem is you're assuming your child will want to do things the way you imagine, but they are their own person and they will often surprise you. When you're not prepared for that reality, it can take you by surprise and cause disappointment, hurt, annoyance, and then of course guilt, which can make the whole experience just feel ruined. But here's what most parenting advice won't tell you. This isn't just about managing your child's behaviour, it's about understanding what's happening inside you as the mother. Let me explain what I mean. Now, when you imagine that perfect Christmas baking scene, you're actually putting something that therapists call your light shadow onto your child. Now, your light shadow is all the beautiful, joyful parts of yourself, often connected to your own inner child. Maybe it's the part of you that remembers the wonder of Christmas, the excitement of baking, all the sensory delights of flour and sugar and cinnamon and vanilla. But you're unconsciously putting that onto your child and expecting them to fulfill your vision of a magical Christmas for you. But the reality is your 3-year-old doesn't get Christmas the way you do yet. When you hand them a bowl of flour, they're not thinking about traditions or memory making. They're thinking about how fun it is to stick their hands in it and watch it float through the air. They're in the sensory moment, not in the nostalgic moment. But your child isn't rejecting your vision. They're just being themselves at that particular developmental stage. And this is where it gets really interesting because there's often something else happening too. Now, your dreams about Christmas baking aren't just about creating magic for your children. They're also about something deeper in you. There's your inner child who holds that magical nostalgia, the beautiful memories, the warmth, the joy. And of course, you want to share that. That's lovely and natural. But there might also be a wounded part of your inner child present. Maybe Christmas wasn't always magical for you. Maybe it was stressful or full of tension. Maybe you're trying to give your children what you didn't have. Maybe you're trying to prove you're a good enough mum by creating these perfect moments. When your child throws flour on the floor or gets bored or fights with their sibling, it can trigger that wounded part. It can feel like proof that you're failing, that you can't create the magic, that you're not enough. But what I want you to hear is you are a good enough mum, because you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to create Pinterest-worthy moments. You need to be present, responsive, and realistic. So let's talk about your child's actual developmental capacity, because this is crucial. Young children, especially under 5, are still developing impulse control, emotional regulation, and the ability to think ahead. They live primarily in the present moment. When you're baking and your toddler pours cinnamon everywhere, they're not being naughty. They're exploring cause and effect. They're experiencing the sensory joy of watching something scatter and float. When your 5-year-old gets bored, it's not because they don't care about your special activity. It's because their attention span is still developing, and sitting still for extended periods of time is genuinely difficult for them. And when your kids fight over the wooden spoon, they're not ruining your Christmas magic. They're learning about sharing, boundaries, and negotiation, which is actually exactly what they're supposed to be doing at this stage. The problem then isn't your child's behaviour, it's the mismatch between your longing for a magical Christmas and their developmental reality. So what do you do with all of this? Well, first, acknowledge your own dreams. They are beautiful. They're infused with your childhood nostalgia, and they're lovely to share. Don't dismiss them. But second, prepare yourself for reality. Your child is still very little. The floor will be a mess. The ingredients will not stay neatly in the bowl. And the decorations will be, well, colourful. And you might be washing vanilla extract out of your child's hair later tonight. I have actually been there. I once had to wash flour and oil out of my sensory-seeking child's hair. I'll tell that full story on my podcast, but trust me, I know what this is like. When you prepare yourself for the extra work, you won't be taken by surprise. You will feel ready instead of robbed. And this is where my framework comes in: repair, respect, and respond. Repair is about conflict. It's okay. When you shriek at the cinnamon pouring on the floor, you can repair with your child. You can say, "I'm sorry I shouted. I was surprised and worried about the mess. Let's clean this up together." Respect is about modeling respect to your kids. Don't demand it from them. Respect that they're in their own developmental stage. Respect their sensory exploration. Respect their limited attention span. And respond, don't react. Think about what's going to happen and plan for your kid going off script. Expect the flour on the sofa. Expect the boredom. Expect the sibling conflict. When you've thought it through, you can respond calmly instead of reacting emotionally. A realistic outlook doesn't ruin the magic. It creates space for a different kind of magic, the real kind. If you want practical tools to help you navigate Christmas chaos with confidence, I've created something specifically for you. It's called the Calm Mum Reset. It's a simple, practical guide with 5 easy-to-use, therapeutically informed tools based on the Repair, Respect, Respond framework. These aren't just tips, they're grounded in therapeutic understanding of what's actually happening for you and your child in these moments. You'll find the link in the description below. And if this resonated with you, please subscribe, because I share insights like this every week to help you parent with more compassion for your child and for yourself. Remember, you're a good enough mum. You don't need perfect moments. You need real ones.